Hello everybody. Well, it's Saturday, 14th of the 10th, 2023, and so I share a little account with you. I love these historic accounts, you know, the older ones that have never been heard before, and it just kind of tells us all the magnitude of what's happening and what other people are experiencing, which is incredible, really. And this lady, I'll call Jane, sat on this account since 1977, and she contacted me after hearing me talking on various podcasts and on our own Truth Proof channel, because she wanted to share this, and she hopes that the people involved, the people that were present when she had this incredible sighting stroke experience back in 1977, might also be looking for answers still. That's the impact it's had on her. So it involved 6 teenagers who back in 1977, all mid-teens to late teens. Jane was 17 at the time, and she was with 5 friends. The eldest of the group had just passed his driving test, and he'd got himself a Mini. So you can picture the scenario, the 6 of them crammed inside a little Mini car. And they're just full of life, absolutely unbreakable. The sort of, we've all been there, haven't we? And we think we can conquer the world. Just good kids, just enjoying life. But it turned into what I would call a terrifying experience. So there's Jane's in the passenger seat. Obviously, the driver is in the front seat, and we've got the 2 back seats with a teenager on the knee of each of the ones sat in the back seat. So we've got four people crammed into the back. And they're driving along country lanes, and they're near the Malvern Hills. And it's one summer's evening. And she said she looked across the fields and she spotted something to her left. A long way over in the fields, and it was a blue light. And she kind of likened it to the light on top of a police car. You know, back in the day, I mean, there'll be a lot of people listening to this that won't be familiar with what the light on a police car used to look like, the single blue light back in the day, but that's what she likened it to. The same colour, but it wasn't strobing, solid blue light. And she brought it to the attention of her 4 friends sat in the back seat, and the driver, who we'll call Joe. Obviously, he can't take his eyes too much off the road, but they're looking at this blue light. The no roads where this light was, it was just open fields, open countryside, and there's kind of a gap in her mind as regarding what happened next. She says that she remembers hearing the radio crackle and become distorted. The next thing she remembers is being sat in the darkness with this huge blue light close to the side of the car. So close, Jane says, that if she'd have wound the window down, she could have reached out and touched it. She said it was huge, much bigger than the Mini. Now, we know a Mini is only a small car, but I don't know, what seems like a few moments ago, looking at a sphere of light in the distance and then suddenly seeing this monstrously huge sphere, bigger than the car sat at the side of her, it must have been quite traumatic. She said to its right-hand side of this glowing sphere of blue, there was an aerial type protrusion sticking out from it. She remembers seeing that. So within seconds of them all fixing their eyes on this blue light, it vanished. It's just gone. Didn't fly away, didn't go up vertical, it vanished into thin air. I mean, how many times have we heard that? I talked about the UFO that I saw at Sledmere, I think it was back in 2004, with Chris, my work colleague. You know, we watched that over them trees and it didn't fly away. It just vanished as though it had been switched off. So it's a rare ability that these these other intelligences, these other phenomena have. Right. They were all instantly terrified for some reason after it had vanished. And now it was dark because it was early evening when they'd first set eyes on the blue light. So it had gone from bright sunlight to nighttime. They cannot remember if the engine started or if Joe turned the key. They really don't know, because initially the car was running when they saw the light in the distance over the fields. So Jane, she kind of went on to explain that the roads they were driving along were all narrow and winding. Plus, another bit I need to add is that she's always believed Joe may have remembered more than any of them. And she must have her reasons for that, but she didn't elaborate on it to me. And she really is hoping that, even though it was 1977, these people are still looking for answers as to what they saw and experienced that day. So what they did, the absolutely tight, narrow roads, Joe literally floored the car and was tearing down these roads at speeds that were much, much too fast for them to be traveling on. And they're all frightened. That kind of added to the fear, because he was frightened to death and he needed to get away. They eventually arrived at Jane's home, and Mum and Dad are stood on the doorstep waiting for them, which is odd. Scrambled out of the car, 6 sort of frightened teenagers, all wanting a voice to be heard, all wanting to explain what they'd seen, what they'd experienced. And they didn't really know what they'd seen and experienced, but they knew whatever it was, it had mixed them up. Joe was so frightened that he refused to drive home. He just wouldn't drive the car. And Jane says her dad took them home. And they even asked to drive on a different road to the one where they saw the UFO. It just absolutely terrified them. Now, Jane says that they were all sure it was 7 p.m. when they first saw the light. Yet, when they arrived at Jane's home, it was 11 p.m. They'd lost 3 hours of time. And those 3 hours, I need to just stress, it's that gap of sort of nothingness, the unknowing, that haunts a person. And those 3 hours have haunted Jane ever since 1977. And I would imagine the other 5 occupants of the car will have similar feelings. I mean, they might not, after all those years, they might not think about it every day. But I bet when it does come into the mind, that gap, it really kind of troubles a person. So like we said, they've haunted her all her life. She doesn't think about it every day, as I just said, but it's something that often runs through her mind, and not least because she's just unsure what happened in that blank space. A few more interesting points before we close this. She told me that she was wearing a short beige leather jacket when she had the encounter, and that she discovered a strange sticky substance on the jacket afterwards. I mean, I asked if she'd still got the jacket. I mean, what's the chances of that? And minimal. I do realise that. And she hasn't. She said she had the same substance in her hair. I think it was odourless, whatever it was. It didn't smell. But nevertheless, it was on a jacket and it was in her hair. She didn't say whether the other occupants of the car had this similar substance on them. And I think she would have done during our conversation had they have complained about it. Now, the blue light and 3 hours of missing time, always at the front of her mind. And they wondered if anybody else saw the light that night or that evening. But there was nothing in the local papers, no mention of anything unusual being seen in the community. Now, we're just about complete with this short account, but there is one more bit that's fascinating. They all realised that the car was actually on a different road when they sort of came to their senses in the darkness. I mean, how crazy is that? It was facing the same direction, but on a road that ran parallel to the road that they were driving on. They all agreed on this. So whatever it was that interacted with these 6 teenagers back in 1977 also appears to have lifted the car and put it onto another road. So did the occupants of the craft actually lift the car and its passengers into the object, the UFO? Or were there some other processes at work? I guess we'll never know. But how incredible. 1977, and we've never heard about this case before. So I'm sure there's lots more out there. And I hope, I mean, slim chances, I do realise that, but I do hope that if you were sat in that car back in 1977 and you kind of think to yourself, well, this is the same story, please get in touch. I know that Jane would love to reconnect with these 5 witnesses who she's lost touch with over the years. So we're going to put more of these accounts out, some a little bit shorter, some quite lengthy at times. If you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. Remember, most of what I'm going to be talking about, although this one isn't in the Truth Proof books, can be obtained in these books at our website, truthproof.uk. Or if you want the Kindle versions, just go onto Amazon. And there's also the incredible documentary that I've made with Les Drake, Wolflands, which is currently on Amazon Prime. And it's a standalone documentary. It is a lone wolf documentary in the subject of cryptids, because there isn't one quite like it. And I've no qualms in saying that I think it's the best documentary ever made on the subject of cryptids in the UK. So on that note, I'm going to end it. Thank you very much for listening to me, and enjoy your day. Thank you.